Yep. And if everything went well, we should be live. Hey, everyone,
Hello.
and welcome to another episode of Everything Outside Code. And today I have Adam Gusky. Adam, you want to say hi first before we proceed?
Hello. Excited to
Yep.
be here.
Yep. Thanks for coming on, Adam. And as usual, on these streams, we talk about everything outside actual product development. I think they're the really hard parts, which is getting a product to market. We talk about product roadmaps. We talk about the problems interesting founders like Adam is solving with Bloggy. Today, we're going to be talking about AI generated content, just content in general, content for marketing, content to basically drive product growth. And I'm excited to hear all Adam has to share about this. This is a fun conversation. So if you have any questions whatsoever, please just leave them in comments. If you have any contributions, you can leave them in comments and I'll take them as we proceed on this stream. So over to the man of the hour, Adam. How you doing, man? How are things on your end today?
Doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Yep, pretty good. Shitty weather in Oslo at the moment. It's getting super cold and dark. But aside
How
that, I
cold
think
is it?
everything else is fine. Yeah, it's like what 17 Fahrenheit. It's like
Oh wow.
17
Yeah.
Fahrenheit and then -7 Celsius. So it's getting pretty chilly. So I have a light jacket on.
Nice. Yeah, that's
But
chilly.
anyways, Adam, could you tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and how you got to becoming the founder of Bloggy?
Yeah. I was a software engineer for about 4 years, last working at Expedia, and then about 6 months ago, I decided to quit and focus full time on one of the side projects I had. Um, the side project I had didn't end up working out. So I met with a bunch of founders to try and figure out a new idea. Um, and I came across a guy that was using an AI blog writing tool, and he was ranking for like 350 keywords just with these AI articles. Um, he probably had like 300 on his site at the time, but the articles were recommending competitor products. Uh, and he didn't love the UI of like the interface where you set up like which articles will be published next. Um, so I saw this as like a problem that is being solved, but I think I can solve it in my own way. Um, and so he was one of my first customers. Um, I actually got a couple other people to purchase the product, and I received the money before I started coding on it. But that's kind of how Bloggy started.
Oh, that's interesting. So you said you received money for the product before you actually like built it. How did you
Yeah.
do that? What proof could you show?
So yeah. So I have probably built like 8 projects, some like full SaaS applications with a payment link, some just like free tools up until that point. And I found that nobody would buy anything that I built. So I was like, let's focus on the business side of this first. Let's see the
Yeah.
payments come into Stripe. Let's make sure this isn't a problem that just one person has and that a bunch of people are willing to purchase it. So I think I had this first person buy who already used the tool, and then I sold it to 3 other people um, at various price points. I just kind of went up every time to see if people would still buy it, and they did. So once I had 4 people, I created the product. Took about 3 weeks to get like the first really scrappy version out there. Um, and I manually set up each person. So for the first 2 people, I actually coded their blog page on their website. Um, and this is like something that helped me out a lot, I think, because when you first have a new product and you're bringing it to market, no one really trusts that it's going to work or that you're not going to like leave in a month. So I think by providing a much better like customer experience and helping them with onboarding manually and almost doing it as more of a service will help you get those first sales and build trust. So that was my approach. I didn't even have a UI that they could log into, but the tool was connected to their sites publishing blogs. And then from there, I got more customers every month and built out the product more every month. And now it's like almost a self-serve product.
That's great. So this service, did you charge for it for setting up their blog or
So I just did a monthly payment, and one
yeah,
month gets you a new blog post generated to your site every day.
yeah. Oh, that's great. So I'm curious, this sounds like a huge shift from software engineering to trying to build something. First, it didn't work, you said. The first your side project you quit your job for. What didn't
Yeah.
work with that one? What was it?
So I was really into cold email. And so I wrote like an AI cold email writer because writing the email sequences can be pretty time consuming. Um, and I think that there were a couple problems. One problem is that the market for people sending mass cold emails is pretty small. Um, and the people that are doing that are probably running agencies. So they're already kind of a more like mid to expert level copywriter. And the
Hmm.
tool could generate like mid-level copy, but I just think I don't think the copy was good enough because like a cold email, it needs to be somewhat novel and somewhat new every time. You can't really reuse a formula. The formulas like quickly go out of style. Um, so
Yeah.
ultimately, I got to like $100 of MRR and the churn was pretty bad, so I just ended up kinda trashing that project. It's still
At
up,
least you
but
made money.
yeah.
At least you got to $1
Yeah,
MRR at least.
and
So
so
that was something.
that that was nice because, like, when you're building stuff, just collecting, like, your first payment for anything you built is pretty hard and scary. Um, so I felt like I at least got one step further with that
Hmm.
project.
Yeah. I, I mean, I sent a shit ton of cold emails this year. Um, And I think maybe one downside to what you built was that a lot of the tools you used to send the emails actually let you like generate emails as well. Like they give you the ability
Yeah,
to generate
exactly.
emails, even though the emails were like shitty, but you could just tweak
Yeah,
a thing or two, and
and that's the thing.
that was fine.
Like, so I started targeting, business development reps, so, like, people that do cold outreach for big companies. But the
Hmm.
problem is that a lot of the tools they use already have some version of an email writer in there. Um,
Yeah,
and so that's another big thing is, like, if you're building a new tool and they have to go to a different website to use it, so they have to add that step to their workflow. Unless the tool is like incredible and they can't live without it, it's going to be very difficult to get people to use it consistently.
yeah, yeah. That's right. And how did you make it a change from software engineering to this like sales GTM guy that is a
Yeah.
founder? What did you have to
So,
change, like skills wise or just mentally?
um, I would still consider myself more of like a developer, but the reason I got into cold email is because I had this website which it ran like month-long cycling challenges. So companies that or teams inside of a big company would compete to see which team could
Hmm.
rack up the most miles biked in a month. It also worked for like running and walking. But we had this tool and it was actually being used by a Fortune 500 company. And in that company, we had over 2,000 people using it. However, we couldn't get the company to pay us after like 3 years of them using it. Um,
Yeah,
and we were doing support. The company was worldwide, so we'd get all sorts of different languages messaging our support. So it became like more than a side project. So that's when I tried cold email for it. And I hired a guy that I met on Twitter. And it did book, I think, like 3 meetings with real companies, which was cool. However, the product ultimately was a little bit hard to sell because it was more of a vitamin than, um, like an
painkiller.
app or a painkiller. And I think since COVID, when like companies started getting really lean, they cut out a lot of products like that. So we kind of gave up on that project, but it did teach me that cold email is a good way to get meetings for B2B software.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it does work. We didn't have success, like we weren't successful with cold emails, but I think it's just because of we have like very small addressable market, and our prospects, they typically do not like entertain, I wouldn't say entertain offers, and they only want to talk to you when they're ready to buy, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
Before that, yeah, before that, they're really not interested, especially since it's not like a, hey, here's $100 subscription with a 50% off for your first 3 months sort of,
Yeah.
product or service.
Yeah. Those are definitely like for a good cold email, from my experience, it is like super concise. It's maybe 2 or 3 lines, nothing more. It offers them like some sort of discount or something for free, or like for my blog generator service, I'm like, hey, I generated this blog for your website. Want to see it? Like something like that. Um,
Hmm.
just something short, something that like a friend would send you versus like I hope this finds you well. But that's another thing is that the target market should be big. Otherwise, cold email might burn some of your leads. If it's very
Yeah,
small, then you want to do manual outreach.
yeah, that's right. So, going on to Bloggy, right? Part of validating it, could you walk me through validating the idea? Because and also what you're doing different if possible, because earlier this year I went on acquired, what's this, microacquire, yeah,
Yeah,
microacquire.com, and I think 80% of like the small apps there were like blog generation apps. It's like, hey,
yeah,
generate like the blog post. So
yeah.
what's different and how did you validate this?
So let's start with how I validated this and then remind me to do the what's different part after if I forget.
Yeah.
But how did I validate it? I think at the time, so here's the difference. There's a lot of AI blog writers, I guess. Um, but it's just like a ChatGPT wrapper where you enter a topic and it writes a very generic subpar blog post. Um,
Yeah.
but the reason that this guy was paying for this other tool was because it automates the coming up with a topic for each blog post and then the writing and then the scheduling it to be published to your site every day. So like I have it running on all these sites completely on autopilot and it just comes up with a new premise every day and it like a totally unique one. How it works is it looks at like the last year of blog posts written and says like come up with a different one. Um, so the reason it's helpful is because it actually automates it, um, and it saves time from a founder. And if you can save time for something that um, is necessary for business growth, or at least SEO is a great way to grow your business, um, that's what people will pay for.
Hmm. Oh, I see.
But
So
so,
this, I was going to say the value add here is in the efficiency, right? The time to get this post out and like schedule it, get it out, because the founder already does something similar, just manually.
yeah, because like everyone starts a project and then they're 3 months in and they're like, oh, I should probably get SEO going, but like I have this customer support ticket to do today. And that just keeps happening. Um, so like our article is going to be better if you write them yourself and can spend 3 hours doing them. Or like your agency writes like really high quality articles and you charge higher for that, which those are the ones that are going to be ranked number one on Google. But to just get yourself in the keyword rankings, so maybe you can get to top 10, maybe you're like 11th place. This is the way to do that. And then once you get to like top 20, top 10, to get yourself into the top five, like that's when I recommend to manually go over it and improve it in any way you can. Because the AI blog articles, they can get you up to like position 10. That's the highest we've gotten. Um, which does bring in some traffic. But to get to those top spots, like it does take time, and there's no other way around that.
Yeah. Yeah, this makes sense. I think this is probably like the first honest take I've heard on on
I know.
AI
I
generated content.
So I'm always talking about AI blog writers and like annoying my wife about it. But so then Instagram hears that, and I see all these Instagram ads for my competitors, and they're telling people that one person claimed that AI is prioritized by Google algorithm now, which is totally not true. Like maybe
Yeah.
you can argue that it's Google says it's okay if it's high quality AI content, but you can't say it's prioritized over manually written content, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, I see a lot of like shit content out there, and not just shit content but shit claims of how
Yeah,
the content that you generate with the tool is is much better quality, would get you to like number one on Google, and then probably the next month Google releases like some update, their monthly update saying, oh, we're actually going to pay more attention to high quality content. And I definitely do agree with you that to get your foot in the door, because SEO is, I think it's a
exactly.
marathon, right?
Yeah.
From what we've
It's like a
seen.
spray and pray approach to like
Yeah,
get yourself in the keyword rankings, but then you can manually refine the top performing posts.
yeah. Yeah, I do agree. It's a good way to at least start from somewhere, right? Get in the race. Internally, I tell our head of marketing, we had, because Hackmamba started out as a developer blog, we wrote a lot of like JavaScript content, developer content. We're ranking for like Ajax calls and such keywords,
Okay.
right? We're ranking for like heavy developer keywords. And then we grew as a developer marketing agency, and we're going after those keywords, but then it became so hard to get like a foot in the door, right? To just even rank, even if it's get to like number 50 on
Yeah.
the keyword ranking, right? But for us, our ethos is original content, so we had to write a lot of content, and we're still writing. We publish a blog post each week since the start of this year, and
Yeah.
we've been we've been consistent at it. But then I imagine, and we're only able to do this because we have the resources internally, right? And we can
Yeah.
make it work. I can write, every other person can write. But then I imagine for smaller SaaS products or services, niche services also that do not have the capacity to create decent content, to get at least their foot in the door before they can start doing like all the SEO optimization, that AI
Yeah.
generated content could be the way for them.
Yeah. And like some of my clients are like one person is just a small psychologist firm. So like they were doing like one blog post every few months. So they can at least have this and have it running on autopilot. Um, so I think that's the
Hmm.
benefit is like smaller companies that just don't have time to write this or don't have someone dedicated to their content
Yeah,
marketing and have like a smaller budget.
yeah. And conversion wise, right? Because they all have like outcomes. Um, do they care about the quality of the content and how many leads it generates them, the traffic it gets them? Do they care about that? Because I see some folks just care about, we want to see like the traffic, want to see golf stick on the traffic. Others are like, we don't care about the traffic, we want to see conversion. So we want people to finish this post, click through to our product, maybe book a demo,
Mm.
or actually sign up. So what does conversion look like for folks that use your service, if you can share?
Um, I don't really measure conversion at this point. I'm about 5 months in. But I also don't, obviously that's the goal of the service is like more people buy the service or product, whatever they're selling. Um, but all I tell customers is like I can't guarantee conversions or that you're number one in Google, but what I can guarantee is that there will be a high quality AI generated blog post to your site every day. And that's how Google picks up keywords for like those rankings from like the 10th position to like the 100th position.
Yeah.
So that's what I tell people. I think a lot of people um, say that if you use my service for 3 months, you'll end up as like the number one spot. But I don't really buy that. And I just don't tell people that because I don't want their expectations to be incredible and then they're like,
Yeah.
you know, not feeling great 6 months in.
Yeah, this is really honest. Well, at least in our case, we have to promise. We have to promise that and live up to it.
Yeah.
Else, else
But, and
we're out
that's,
of a job.
yeah. And so like maybe someone would, and you're doing manual technical writing, so that's a
Yeah.
little bit different. So, like, if
Hmm.
someone were to use both of our tools, they would use Blawgy to just generate a bunch of blogs, and then they would hire your agency to say, like, "This article's ranking, but let's make it excellent."
Yeah. That's cool. With AI generated content, I want to get your take on context, right? Because that's something that's largely missing, right? And it's also one of the reasons folks come to agencies like Hackmamba is they have varied context from product context to domain expertise in their teams to just general recent knowledge, right? So something's been released by maybe OpenAI. They want to factor that into the content they create and also blend that in um, with domain expertise from like a head engineer or a lead engineer on their team. How do you see AI or how do you see context playing a big part in AI generated content? Right?
Yeah.
Is this like super important? Is this something people ask for? Is like something they don't care with AI generated
So,
content?
I think one way that sets Bloggy apart from all those other alternatives that you mentioned, because there are a ton, other than the just like auto posting and integrations that we have. Um, so what separates the content apart is that we scrape Google to include some external links. We scrape your website to include internal links. We have like a description of your product on hand. You can enter SEO keywords, so we'll include one keyword per article. And then we scrape YouTube and embed videos throughout. Um, and then, oh my God, I lost my train of thought. What was the question?
How do you consider context with generating
Oh,
AI
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like content?
So that's how we like set ourselves apart from just like more high level topics to just get a bunch of content on the site. But that's kind of the next step. Is someone can upload a PDF of all their new documentation, and then we can write 10 blog posts about each like various piece. Or if they just have like newsletters, they can upload those and get an article about each newsletter. Um, so we don't have that yet, but that's kind of where I think we're heading to provide more value and vary up the blog posts that we can
Hmm.
write.
Yeah. I hope you put like strict prompts to remove in the ever evolving landscape.
I don't think any of our blogs say that. I think we got rid of
Yeah.
that. So fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
Those. Yeah, those that's like the telltale signs. But yeah, this sounds like a great product. And if anyone is in the anyone watching this, you want to generate again, get your foot in the door with content, with SEO content, and check out bloggy.com. Um, and if you have any issues, reach out to Adam, and Adam probably set up your blog for you
Yeah.
if you pay enough, I guess.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how it is kind of more of a service than a SaaS. It's kind of like a service that I'm almost done automating into a self-serve SaaS. So to
Okay.
sign up right now, you have to book a call with me, unfortunately. But then I walk you through like what we'll need to do to get things going. And I actually do the keyword research manually for each customer um, and set them up in my platform. And then once it's rolling, then you can log in and see upcoming blog posts and make edits to those. You can generate blog
Yeah.
posts beforehand to edit them, um, change the images, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, that's cool. So let's talk about GTM and how you go to market, right? With Bloggy. Currently, what's working? If you can share, obviously, like what are you doing that's working? Social media, cold outreach? Is it like creating content with Bloggy as well? But yeah, what's
Yeah.
working?
So initially it was all warm connections, and I think that's like the best way to start if you have connections of other like
Mm-hmm.
founders or your ICP, because they already know you as a person and trust you a little bit. Um, so that's kind of how I got my first like 7 or 8 customers. Um, I made a blog post a, or a Reddit post about my journey to reach like, I think at the time it was when I reached like 300 MRR, and it kind of blew up. It got like 200 upvotes, and I actually got a customer from that.
Oh,
So that's one thing you can do is kind of subtly talk about your product. You can't say you're like if you're interested to DM me because people just catch that too easily. But you tell the story of your product and it solves a problem someone has, like they'll reach out. Um, but the primary way that's been working is cold email. Um, and my market is just like massive. Like it's anyone that runs a small business or a SaaS. So there's like millions of people. So cold email works really well. Right now, cold email is a bit harder due to some Google and Microsoft updates. So like ending up in the primary inbox versus spam is extremely difficult. So I'm kind of trying to figure out what will work going forward. If I can figure out
yeah,
cold email or if I have to try like Facebook ads.
yeah. I get a lot more cold emails that land in my primary inbox these days. It's surprising, but I get twice as much in my spam folder. But I think it's become super easy to send cold emails. That everyone's just like firing out cold emails and rotating
Yeah,
inboxes. I think
yeah,
it's instantly that lets you set up like 20, 30 inboxes at once and warm them up. Purchase domains as
yeah.
well. So it's gotten easier for sure.
Yeah, and it's interesting because now that's gotten easier. So I feel like now manual emails that are like clearly manual really stand out. It's just interesting
Yeah,
how that kind of shifts back and forth.
yeah. I mean, I use myself as like a litmus test. Is I get an email, I see like the subject line. It sounds like I should click on it, like it sounds normal, but I don't know the recipient. I don't know the sender, rather. I don't know the sender, and then I read like the intro, just like the snippet before I click it, and it says it sounds normal, like "Hey" or "Hi, William. I hope you're doing all right," like a normal person would write, which is interesting. So I hope you're doing all right. And then they go ahead to like say something like, I found this on LinkedIn and I wanted to, like, nope, um, I don't want to interact with this. But then I think
Yeah,
I recently received an email that sounded like the most, you know, cold email, auto-generated like email that I almost felt like I shouldn't respond to it. But because I had the problem the person was offering a solution to, I just had to reply like, yes, send me a calendar invite. So as soon as
yeah,
I did that, I took a step back and I was like, oh, so this email just wasn't written. It wasn't written like the best email. It wasn't personalized. It wasn't personal. It was just relatable. Like I had the problem. They were offering a solution and they stated it clearly what the solution was, and that was it. That was They just stated their offer. No trying to give me like a carrot to lure me in or offer something. Just here's what we're offering if you have this problem. And I replied, and it's had me thinking that maybe we need to spend more time qualifying prospects and actually like qualifying contacts and finding people that actually need the problems or the solutions to the solutions we're offering, and they have the problems, and maybe they have like burning problems, right? Maybe they would reply.
yeah. And that's the thing. So I had that AI cold email writer, but I found that I don't think the copy matters that much. What really matters is, does the person that you're sending it to have the problem that your product or service solves? Just like what
Yeah,
you said. So I think that's another thing about cold email. You just gotta like
yeah,
find the right people. Um, but it is nice with like the spray and pray approach. You can hit like 10,000 people and you will find some of the people that have the problem.
yeah, yeah. You will definitely you will find. I mean, if you've like targeted your outreach properly and contact, you would reach. I'm still waiting for a tool that's able to do this. That's able to find folks that actually have the problem. They can gather like intense data from multiple sources and be sure these folks have a problem. But the thing is, such tools, I think they exist. They just cost like a shit ton of money. They cost
Yeah,
so
and
much.
the thing is with all the AI tools nowadays, including mine, it's like, how do you know if it works until it's like somewhat big and people are talking about it? Like, it's tough because there's an AI tool for everything, but sometimes the quality is as low as just like
Hmm.
a GPT wrapper, and that's it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So, speaking of GTM, still, have you tried social media, for instance? I see you're on X, Twitter, and on LinkedIn. How has that worked for
Yeah.
you so far?
So I've been doing LinkedIn cold outreach, which I think maybe I've been targeting the wrong people because it hasn't worked. Where in the past for other products it has actually worked. Um, but all I do there is cold messaging. I don't do any posting. Um, on Twitter, I post all the time, but it's more just about my random thoughts as I'm like building whatever. Um,
Yeah.
the only sales I've gotten from Twitter, which have been a good amount of them, are through DMing people that follow me or that I follow or have a relationship with. So
Hmm.
I've never been good at making posts that go viral to sell. But that is something I'd like to try is just like posting on TikTok and seeing if I can get any sales from that.
On TikTok, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think your service can also like your product can serve like really small businesses, like you say, folks that have like maybe just one or two people on their team. So it's almost like B2C rather than
Yeah.
B2B. So it's like a B2B, but the B is just one person or two people running the
Yeah,
business.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's
and
like,
TikTok would be good.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that that does make sense. I'm curious. Maybe what could be the reason why Bloggy isn't cold outreach on LinkedIn isn't as good as your other product? Do you need to find again people that have a problem, connect with them, or you need to take like a different approach to the cold DMs?
I think so. I'll just be 100% transparent about the last campaign I did. So I got two customers in like the mental health field. One was a
Hmm.
psychologist firm, and then one was a life coach. And so I was thinking like, oh, well, that's a small trend between my customers. Like, let's target anyone where they're a business owner and their business's description says mental health in it. So I tried that, and I don't know if my messaging was off or what, but I got very few responses. Um, Maybe it's because generally the nature of someone in a mental health space, they'll care more about um, exactly like how their tone is on their blog posts, because they won't care more about like their brand from a blog post perspective.
Hmm.
Um, So I don't know. It didn't work. I'm gonna switch it up. Maybe back
Hmm.
to founders of SaaS companies. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, that's what I was trying last, which didn't work.
yeah. Also, I think with like health professionals, right? On most of like the large health organizations, pharmacies, like drug companies, they own like top 10 spots on Google. Like it's like searching I have a headache. you most likely find like maybe the local health authority there. Or so I don't know if there's so much appeal to try content marketing for like, independent practitioners, and what that would look like. Maybe certain industries have like a greater affinity to certain like marketing channels, like content marketing.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
thinking about that randomly.
Some of the customers that it's worked the best for so far are like tech, kind of like somewhat niche tech companies. So like one is like an AI phone restaurant, excuse me, AI phone answering system for restaurants. So it's like it handles their reservations and all that kind of stuff, and any like
Hmm.
questions about the hours, which is kind of
Yeah.
niche. And you can do like AI phone answering or AI receptionist, which are
Hmm.
newer keywords. Then another one is a tool that connects Shopify stores to be able to sell on like eBay and Etsy, and a
Hmm.
couple others, Amazon. So I think the products that are a little bit more niche, which maybe naturally leans towards SaaS products, does a little better.
Yeah. Any plans to look at like larger companies, like go after
Um, yeah.
larger B2B
So
companies?
I think that I do kind of have a plan, but right now I'm focusing on the smaller ones. The plan
Hmm.
to go after those companies would to make it more of a tool that's like a co-pilot for writing an article. So like it generates small pieces of it and then you can put it together, but it's like a 30-minute manual thing for a person to use, because I
Yeah.
think they require a little bit more quality, um, and more context based on whatever their product is.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that makes sense. Something I'm curious about with your outreaches, do you design campaigns, or you just like think about, oh, I need to do LinkedIn outreach for the next 1 month, and I just, yeah, just LinkedIn outreach for the next 1 month, or I'm going to put out a couple of tweets and then I see, what sticks. Or do you plan, like, meticulously plan a campaign?
I plan campaigns for cold outreach on LinkedIn and email. Just like I do a sequence of like four messages. I'll usually send one with the offer, send another one like 3 days later saying like maybe some results that customers have gotten, and then a follow up, uh, 1 week later, and then another week later. And that's usually it.
Yeah, yeah, that's
But
cool.
for
Any Could
social
you
media,
share?
I haven't.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, just for social media, those are all more sporadic. I haven't like I don't plan those out as much.
Yeah. And what tools do you use for these like sequences and these campaigns?
For LinkedIn, I use a tool called Walaxy, and then for email, I use a tool called Smart Lead.
Oh yeah, I think I've used Smart Lead in the past.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty good. I used to use Instantly, but people were saying that the warm up pool was quality was going downhill, so I switched over. I don't know if it actually made a difference, but I do like Smart Lead a little bit more, just from a UI perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool. Well, what can we expect next from Bloggy?
Hopefully it just keeps slowly scaling, and I'm launching like a self-serve option soon. Hopefully
Hmm.
by the end of the year. So with that, you'd be able to enter your website domain. Then we gather everything and we say, here are three sample blog post titles that we could generate. And you click one, and then you get it emailed to you for free. So you can kind of see it before we get on a call. So that's what I'm
Yeah.
hoping to launch by the end of the year.
Oh, yeah. That sounds like a really cool like micro tool. Have you thought about like the cost on that? Is it going to be a lot,
Um,
like the acquisition cost on that?
Cost on like writing the article with AI won't be,
Yeah.
it'll
So like
be
someone.
easily covered by the
Yeah.
business. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I think tools like that are great. At least give someone taste of of what they're going to be getting without any
Yeah,
commitments upfront.
yeah. And if you have any recommendations, because you've been in the content game longer and you're focused more on like super high-end content, but if you have any recommendations, I'd love to hear
Yeah. Um, well, I do know with content that we create, most of our partners are just very specific on the quality, on the tone, and also they want to fuse like internal expertise. So they have like opinions from their end they want to put in, and also the reason they come to us is because they want to sound as suggestive as possible. So they want someone that's speaking from experience to write it rather than stating facts, right? So
them.
if
Yeah,
there's anything, I don't know how this would work with AI generated content because, except you admit upfront, which normally throws people off, and I probably wouldn't recommend. But yeah, they normally want to see like some expertise, like they want the author to infuse their expertise and their experience, their development experience into the content and make like strong recommendations rather than suggestions. It's like you should do this
yeah.
because if you don't, you're going to get this. All right, this is going to
That's
happen to you.
that's interesting because so one thing that I've played around with but haven't like launched is you give it a bio of an author and like how they talk and like what points uh they like or I guess what they believe in and what they don't think works. And then it can
Hmm.
write more opinionated pieces. So
Yeah.
maybe if like a client could say what they want to say in the article and what they want to not say or not agree with, I
Hmm.
think then you could get more opinionated pieces. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be like the biggest piece is the being opinionated, um, and knowing when to be even assertive. So if you've tried like AI generation, content generation tools, they mostly just agree with you. The agreeability is like super high. They want something that can say, no, this is not correct. Or some other people will say that this is correct. But I think if you're looking at it this way, it's not correct. Right? Something
Yeah,
that's not afraid to be controversial.
yeah. And
Yeah.
that's one thing that we figured out at a very high level is just like what not to say and telling it what to say because some of our customers are CBD companies and it's very strict on
Yeah.
what they can say because they can get like in a lawsuit if they I think if they claim that it has any health benefits, they can get in big trouble. So you have to
Yeah.
like talk about it without saying anything like that. But so
Yeah.
far it's been working from that perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Um, well,
But right
any last
now,
things you want to share? Oh, sorry. Go on.
um, just right now, I definitely think that's the thing where or the place where AI falls short is like a human has their own opinions and their own tone and writing style. So I think right now, AI can't compete with human written content to get to the top.
Yeah. Um, Also, there's the uncanny valley, right? Where you read something, especially if you're in a, I don't know if I call it like a high stakes environment. You read something, it sounds good. You feel like you are learning from someone that has experience. But the moment the content sounds like it's AI generated, like folks just bounce, and they don't just bounce with like, oh no, I don't want to read this anymore. They bounce with like almost like anger. They're pissed, like I just spent time consuming this, but I want something I can trust. So we've actually we lost one customer because the way we wrote in 2021, when there wasn't like a lot of chat gpt usage, didn't work in 2024. We wrote the same way and they looked at the content and they're like, no, this is AI generated content. And I'm like, no, it's not. I can swear whatever that this isn't. They're
Yeah,
like, yeah, but this is, look at this statement. And I go back to like content we wrote for them 2 years ago. I'm like, hey, this is the same thing. How? how is this? This definitely wasn't also AI generated. So we've also had to try to get past that perception. That was one of the biggest problems we had at the start of this year. Is the perception that the content is like AI generated. I do know if you steady upfront and say like, "Hey, this content is AI generated," it sets expectation with them. That's different. But when you say this is original, then they read a paragraph and they're like, "No, this one, it's not. It's not
Yeah.
original." Yeah, becomes a
Yeah.
problem.
No, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. That we're having to fix and set expectations. So, but I've also seen folks that have tried with stating at the start of the post that the content is AI generated, and then no one reads it. no one goes,
Yeah,
no one
yeah.
goes even further.
I'm gonna send you some of the sample blog posts from like my current customers and see what you think. Because I think some of them are
Yeah,
pretty solid, but I'm curious on your perspective.
yeah, yeah. I want to. I think I want to see like what good, like well written AI content, generated content looks like. Because recently I've just like stopped looking. Like, okay, I'll just focus on
Yeah,
what we do and not corrupt my brain with with stuff so I don't lose any more customers. But yeah,
yeah,
I'd love to take a look at them.
cool.
Yeah. Anyways, Adam, this has been fun. I'm just trying to keep track of time, and I see we're just over. But do you have any last words for anyone listening to this? Obviously, check out bloggy.com. Get your foot in the
Um,
door with SEO content. Anything
yeah.
else?
I would just say I love talking about building products, so you can always DM me on Twitter if you're working on something and maybe like need some help with marketing, or don't know where to start with that or on validating a product. So you can reach out to me on Twitter. It's just my first and last name. And that's it. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Adam. And that's today's episode of Everything Outside Code. And I'll see you next week.